Welcome to Hood Champion Boxing and Sports. In boxing, you find a way to win or you find a way to lose. Look, the revolution must be televised. Terence Crawford and the WBC. Listen, I agree with Terence Crawford, man. I do. I agree with him. You know, I read through the instructions. I understand the sanctioning bodies and I understand sanctioning body fees, and I get it. But at the same time, I got to sit back here and say to myself, what's up with these guys just wanting all of this money? Now, let me tell you something. This shit is all about greed, man. Because if it wasn't all about greed, when it comes to, in particular, the WBC, they would have took the money Crawford was offering them. Now, for those of y'all who didn't know, Crawford offered those guys money. Every sanctioning body. And see, and this is the thing with Crawford. You got to respect him. Crawford recognized that the sanctioning bodies are doing him a solid. You know what I'm saying? He recognized that the sanctioning bodies have been around for a while. He actually has a lot of respect for the sanctioning bodies. So there's false reports that Crawford didn't want to pay any sanctioning fees. That's not true. That's not true. That's the furthest thing from the truth, to be quite honest with you. Terence Crawford had no problem paying the sanctioning fees. But while I got you listening to that, understand this. Usyk and Deontay Wilder are being targeted for the first half of 2026. Let that shit sink in. Wilder against Usyk, it sounds like it's on. Anyway, back to Terence Crawford. I do think if Crawford has come out here and said, look, I'm going to give all you sanctioned bodies X amount of money. And if 3 of the 4 take it, the question isn't why didn't Terence Crawford give the sanctioning bodies $300,000. The question is, there he goes right there. The question is why didn't Mauricio Suleiman take the money? That's the question. You know what I'm saying? Why didn't Suleiman take the money? That's what I want to know. So no one out here can tell me that this guy right here, Terence Crawford, was trying to be shady or just trying to basically take the money that he made, what he earned, and just sit there, man, and just swerve the WBC. Now, I don't know how much money Terence Crawford, what he was trying to negotiate. But I do know this, whatever it was, the sanctioning bodies, the other sanctioning bodies agreed. But let's start peeling this shit back. Now, a lot of y'all don't know about the corruption in boxing, man. You know, Don King and Mauricio Suleiman's pops had all kind of crooked shit going on. I'm not saying Mauricio Suleiman is crooked, but I gotta ask a question. What's really going on with Mauricio Suleiman? What's really going on with him? Because Crawford said something, and I paid attention to it. I caught it. Talking about when he said, what do these guys do? They're all over the world, living their best lives. How? And I gotta ask that question too. When it comes to preachers, right? Some people say, what do preachers do? Mauricio Suleiman, the way one guy described it, we were having a conversation. He was like, you may be onto something. He's like, Mauricio Suleiman ain't nothing but a crooked preacher. And I said, I don't know if I'm willing to go that far, but I said, I got to ask the question. What's going on? It's basically like tithing. You know what I'm saying? That's all it is. And then, you know, some people do right with the money, some people don't. You know, the only way to really find out what's going on with Mauricio Suleiman and the money that's being taken from the fighters, it'd have to be an audit. You know, my question is, when's the last time they had an outside agency that has no influence, that can't be influenced by Mauricio Suleiman, has no connection to anything, like a truly unbiased outside agency come in and do an audit? I think that would shed a whole lot of light on this whole thing. And it'll make Mauricio Suleiman look really good or to make him look crazy as hell. You know what I'm saying? If you're going to talk the talk, walk the walk. You know what I mean? If you're going to say Crawford should have given you an apology, well, cool. All right, you talking the talk, walk the walk. Have an audit done. Now, for those of you who aren't understanding what I'm saying about how sometimes the WBC can be crooked and shit like that, look at this right here. Usyk granted WBC voluntary defense. The WBC has officially authorized Usyk to take a voluntary defense of his WBC heavyweight world title, and Deontay Wilder looking the favorite to land the bout. You see what I'm saying? Now, they have their rules. They can do what they want. But when you just take a look at what's going on there with the WBC, where Usyk's giving a voluntary defense, right? And Deontay Wilder's back in the mix. What y'all think about that? Where is this? I'm looking for this clip I want to show y'all, man. Because I know it's here. Let me just type this in. Okay, no problem. I'll be in there. Let me show y'all this right here. It tripped me out because Mauricio Sulaiman, he had here it is. Here it is right here. A cardboard copy of Terence Crawford, which I thought was just crazy. Okay, so he has them of everybody. This is Sulaiman. Where's the one for Terence Crawford? Go ahead.
There's Mr. Usyk, Mike Tyson, Chavez, Manny, and this is the main room for the hall.
Let me find this one and show you the one they have for Crawford. But he came out trying to clean up everything because when Crawford went off on him yesterday, Crawford talking about mother effer and this and that. Crawford just didn't care. He was emotional, man. But he definitely disrespected the hell out of Mauricio Sulaiman. But you can't blame him, you know what I'm saying? But where is it? He came out basically saying that he wishes Crawford the best and he didn't want any problems with Terence Crawford. And, you know, I don't know how to take Mauricio Sulaiman, man. It sounds to me like the revolution has begun, and then there's going to be more fighters who are going to follow in Terence Crawford's footsteps, and they're not going to want to pay sanctioning fees to him. You know, so that's why he came out here to try to do some damage control, because let me tell you something. When Crawford comes out here and speaks, people listen. You know, when Crawford speaks, people listen. And they definitely heard him last night. And there are some fighters who agree with Terence Crawford. There are other fighters who don't. Well, they don't disagree, but they see it. They understand Crawford, they understand Mauricio Sulaiman. But for me, I'm going to tell you this. If I go out here and bust my ass, right? I understand the rules. I understand the history, the legacy. I understand the way we do business in boxing. But if I say, look, I'm not going to give you what you're asking from me, but I'm going to give you something. And this is behind the scenes. Nobody has to know, right? Because you should want me as your undisputed champion to represent your belts. And I want to represent them, but I'm going to give you this. This is what I think is fair. And you just come out there and play hardball. And then you have 4 different agencies. 3 of them are like, cool. The other one going to sit there and play hardball. I'm telling you, you end up losing out. But now they got it with a WBC belt. Hamza Shiraz and Christian and Billy are going to be the ones fighting for the WBC title that Terence Crawford was stripped of. You know what I'm saying? So, what do you think about that? So they got it right back in rotation to make sure that they get their money. You know, that's all. They want to get their money. It's just crazy. You know, whenever I look at this right here, it just really blows my mind. The WBC have now stripped Terence Crawford of his WBC super middleweight world title due to unpaid sanctioning fees. That is so misleading. He was going to pay them something but he wasn't going to give them what they were asking for, like 300,000, then another 100,000. Like that's a lot of goddamn money. So it was like 400,000 and some change. You might as well just round that way up to 500,000. That's a lot of money, man. And you can't explain to me, you can't show me where this money's going. That shit, like I said, it's almost like extortion, you know. But anyway, Hamza Shiraz is facing Christian and Billy for the vacant WBC super middleweight title. So that's what you got coming up. Now, in this fight, you know, if you say who wins, I think Shiraz wins, but you know, they've been gunning for Shiraz to become a title for quite some time. I mean, to become a titleist for quite some time. And this is his opportunity. You know, will he win? You know, I don't know. But I know that he has a good chance of beating Billy. And I think Billy's going to come in there being all reckless and just, you know, just getting carried away. And I think Billy's going to get stopped. I do. I think Billy gets stopped. So it is what it is. You know what I'm saying? And Billy can fight, but he just comes straight ahead and just goes crazy, man. Anyway, Terence Crawford, they need to put some respect on that man's name. They need to leave him alone and let him and listen to what he's saying. People are forgetting the message. And they better be careful because it's TKO boxing group. If more fighters take a stance like Terence Crawford, them sanctioning bodies they're gonna be left out in the breeze. They're gonna be left out in the breeze, man. So they better wise up. I wouldn't want to pay it. Would you want to pay somebody all that money? It's crazy. Terence Crawford said, I'm the fighter. I take the punches. I built my legacy. Why am I paying millions of organizations that barely promote me? To be honest with you, these sanctioning bodies aren't out here breaking their necks to promote these fighters. They get the title, put it on their waist, shake their hands, a little bit of communication, then they're in the breeze. It's like a turnkey operation. Take the title off of one person, put it on the new champion. Then they go back to chilling in their mansions, eating gourmet meals and breezing, man, with their little pet chihuahua on their lap. They don't care. You know what I'm saying? Charging fighters a percentage of their fight purse. I understand the tradition. I get it. I understand. But I also got to sit there and tell you, man, you know, the bigger the fighter, the bigger the fight purse, the bigger that percentage the sanctioning bodies take. So I guess the question is Terence Crawford justified? Some people say yes, some people say no, some people say Crawford is a spoiled brat, some people say what makes him so special, some people say what makes the sanctioning body so special to where you got a guy saying, look, I'll give you something, but not what you're asking for. And it's a pretty interesting argument. But Crawford earned he earned his legacy. And that you got to understand from his perspective, you know, unified 140, actually became undisputed at 140, a titleist at 135, undisputed at 147, a titleist at 154, and became undisputed at 168. Regarded as the number one pound-for-pound fighter. You know what? If you're the number one pound-for-pound fighter and you're allowed to pick and choose the fights you want to make, you should be able to pick and choose how much you want to pay in sanctioning fees to me. If they say rank has its privileges, you look at Crawford's rank. He's the number one guy. Why doesn't he have his privileges? That's my question. And everything Crawford was able to achieve in boxing, he did it through skill and sacrifice. He didn't do it. Sanctioning bodies didn't help Crawford. I think there was a little bit of secret society that helped bubble him up to the big fights with Canelo, but they didn't give Crawford any decisions. They didn't help him in that aspect. Crawford did his shit through hard work, you know what I mean? So he feels exploited. He don't feel supported. That's why he's sitting there, you know, angry and snapping and going off. He rarely got mandatory challenger protection. He rarely got promotional backing from governing bodies. He barely got fair rankings. And he barely got star treatment despite his accomplishments, you know what I mean? So to him, the belt became expensive jewelry, and I don't blame him for that. It's not a career builder. You know what I'm saying? That's all those belts are to Crawford. This shit is just expensive jewelry. He looking at the ring belt, $180,000 belt that he got for free. And he's like, make it make sense. Even I'm asking, what's the real deal? Make all this make sense to me because the shit doesn't make any sense. He sees sanctioning fees as a tax, which they are. Make $10 million, fees of 3%, that's $300,000. Some Mauricio Suleiman talking about the percentage he was only going to take. Crawford made $50 million. He was only going to take $300,000 plus some other $100,000. Like he's doing Crawford a favor by saying, yo, I'm not going to tax all of that off your $50 million. Just give me $300,000, $400,000. For what? Logos and paperwork? Crawford's saying, I'm paying for what exactly? And nobody's been able to tell him what it is, man. He knows his name sells fights. It's not the belts. Crawford's name sells fights. If Crawford fights Boots, Ennis, or even if Zoo gets back into the mix, fans watch Bud. They're not watching for no WBC, WBO, WBA, IBF badge. They don't give a shit. So some people think he's wrong. Like I said, belts still matter for legacy. Hardcore fans and historians they're gonna say nobody remembers titleless champions. But Crawford, how many more titles can the man want? He just keep basically, it's just recycling. Move from a weight division, drop the belts, go up to another one, pick up another one, the same belts. That's all. It's like me. I like driving Hondas. Anybody follow my channel, they know that. I like Hondas. I do. I'm about to buy another car, but boy, I'm trying my best to wait to see if something nice drops. I'm looking at all kind of vehicles, man. All them expensive cars to the large SUVs to just the Honda Pilot and Honda Odyssey. I've been looking at everything. G-Wagons, X7s, all kind of shit. But I don't really like anything. So to me, when I go out here and get my ass I get a Honda Odyssey or another Honda Pilot or something, I'm just upgrading. Same thing like Crawford, just get another belt. Just upgrading. Same shit. So, but what happened with Crawford is he finally sees something that he really, really wants. And it's that ring belt. And he likes it. And for me, I don't see nothing I really want. That's why I'm just in the breeze. I'm waiting. I was hoping Tesla came out with some large-ass SUV. Then I would buy that. I wouldn't even care. As long as it ain't over 100,000, 110, I'd buy it. But, anything more than that, I'll go buy another fucking house. You know what I'm saying? But anyway, with Crawford, you can see he found something he liked. And he let the world know. And I understand him. I really do, man. But anyway, sanctioning bodies provide order in theory, which is a little bit of truth to that. They create rankings, enforce mandatories, and provide structure. But it's flawed because we can just go right there to everyone knows about Canelo and David Benavidez. We all know what happened there is all bullshit. So Crawford has a point. Suleiman kind of has a point. But I just think we need to understand the psychological layer. Crawford's trauma with boxing. You know what I'm saying? This is the real story. He's been ignored by promoters, undervalued by networks, downplayed by fans, frozen out by divisions, treated like his resume wasn't good enough and not rewarded for dominance the way others have been. So he feels like, shit, y'all didn't care when I was climbing. Y'all didn't give a shit about me then. Now that I'm on top, y'all want to tax me? It's like, man, y'all can kiss my ass. This is that kind of childhood trauma energy in boxing business sense. You know what I'm saying? A kid who grew up neglected and now refuses to let people take advantage of him. It's emotional, it's personal, and it's real. Does Crawford have a right to be angry? Hell yeah, he got a right to be angry, man. He's been the best fighter for the world in years. For years. Never ever got the same promotion as lesser fighters. Same pay-per-view marketing, the same hype machine, the same chosen one treatment. Only after beating Spence, they gave him a little bit of respect. But shit, he ain't lashing out because he's rich and he's cheap and he doesn't want to give you money. Nah. Crawford's cool. He's like, yeah, I understand what y'all do. I understand, I respect it. Been in boxing for a long time, I know, but hey, y'all ain't gonna suck out my eyeballs. So I'm at a point where I'm the big dog. I'm gonna tell you what I want to give you. And we can negotiate. But when you come out there and draw the line in the sand, Crawford like, okay, cool, F y'all belt. And that's the position he took. But he's lashing out because he remembers all the years when people doubted him, minimized him, and ignored him. He's like, y'all not going to do that to me right now. You know what I'm saying? All this money Crawford made in his last couple of fights, that shit didn't fix Crawford emotionally. It didn't fix him emotionally because money doesn't erase disrespect. Simple. It doesn't erase being underrated, being overlooked, being called boring, being told you haven't fought anybody. He didn't forget. He's finally powerful enough to push back, and he's pushing back, and people just need to understand that. They can say what they want. But you know what I say? When y'all say Terence Crawford is unappreciative, he's cheap, he's this, he's that. How about this? Hey, yo, hold your horses, McNicholas. Stop taking it to the stupid. Bud snapped. F you widows. He has a point. The revolution has begun. And let me tell you something. There's going to be more people who are going to sit here and look at what's going on and say, you know what? We don't want to pay that either. And we're going to see how that plays out, especially with this TKO boxing group, with this thing that's going on between Turkey Al-Sheikh and Dana White. That shit starts bubbling. We're going to see what happens. So if these sanctioning bodies have any sense, they better just accept what these guys are willing to give them. Because these sanctioning bodies ain't going to matter anymore. In the breeze.